You have come seeking a child, and I have heard your cries. I will give you the child you desire. But remember this, every gift from the river demands a price. On the day your child is born, someone will die.
Eze and Adaeze returned to Umoke before sunrise, carrying a secret they dared not share with anyone. Although their hearts were filled with hope, the river goddess's warning echoed in their minds every day. Weeks passed, and life slowly returned to normal. They worked on their farm, greeted their neighbors with smiles, and pretended nothing had happened. Then, one quiet morning, Adaeze suddenly felt weak while preparing breakfast. The smell of the cooking fire made her feel sick, and she rushed outside. Eze quickly followed, worried that she had fallen ill. As the days went by, Adaeze realized that her monthly cycle had not come. She placed a trembling hand on her stomach, and tears slowly filled her eyes. Looking at Eze, she whispered, "I think I am carrying a child." For a moment, Eze stood speechless. Then he fell to his knees, lifted his face toward the sky, and thanked God for answering the prayer they had waited so many years to receive. News of Adaeze's pregnancy spread quickly throughout the village. The same people who had once mocked her now came to congratulate her, bringing gifts of food, fruits, and kind words. The women who had whispered cruel insults suddenly smiled as though they had always been her friends. But Adaeze could not forget the river goddess's warning. As the months passed, strange things began to happen around her. Birds gathered on the roof of their home every morning without fear. Wild animals wandered peacefully near their compound without harming anyone. Some nights, a soft blue light seemed to glow faintly around her as she slept, disappearing before dawn. Eze noticed these mysterious signs, but spoke of them to no one. While the village celebrated the coming of the long-awaited baby, the couple silently wondered if the miracle growing inside Adaeze was also the beginning of the terrible price they had been warned about. 9 months passed, and the day everyone had been waiting for finally arrived. As dark clouds gathered over Umoke, Adaeze suddenly cried out in pain. The women of the village rushed into the house to help her, while Eze waited anxiously outside, walking back and forth with trembling hands. Heavy rain began to fall, and flashes of lightning lit up the evening sky. The wind blew fiercely through the village, shaking the palm trees as though nature itself was preparing for something extraordinary. Inside the small mud house, Adaeze struggled through the painful labor. Her cries grew louder with every passing moment, and the women tried their best to comfort her. Outside, Eze closed his eyes and prayed with all his heart, asking that both his wife and child would survive the night. Then, without warning, a bright blue light filled the room. The women screamed in fear and stumbled backward as the newborn baby let out her very first cry. At that exact moment, Adaeze's body became still. The smile on her face slowly faded, and with the last of her strength, she turned toward Eze, who had rushed inside after hearing the screams. She gently placed the tiny baby into his trembling arms and whispered, "Take care of our daughter, and never let her believe she is alone." Before Eze could answer, her eyes slowly closed forever. Tears streamed down his face as he cried out her name, but there was no response. The miracle they had prayed for had finally arrived, yet the river goddess's warning had come true. The price had been paid, and on the very night their daughter was born, Eze became both a father and a widower. The morning after Adaeze's burial, a heavy silence covered the village of Umoke. The joyful songs that usually welcomed a newborn child had been replaced by sorrow. Eze sat alone inside his small mud house, holding his newborn daughter close to his chest. Every corner of the house reminded him of Adaeze. Her clay pot still stood beside the fireplace. Her woven basket rested where she had left it only days before. The dreams they had shared of raising their child together had vanished in a single night. Tears rolled down Eze's face as he looked at the tiny baby sleeping peacefully in his arms. He gently stroked her cheek and whispered, "Your mother gave her life so you could live. From this day forward, your name shall be Amara, because you are the greatest gift she left behind. As long as I breathe, I will protect you. No matter what this world says about you, you will never face it alone." He kissed little Amara on her forehead, holding her tightly as if he could protect her from every pain waiting beyond the walls of their home. As the days turned into weeks, strange stories began to spread throughout the village. Some women claimed they had seen a soft blue light surrounding Amara when she slept at night. Others whispered that she never cried like ordinary babies and that her deep, bright eyes always seemed to stare toward the sacred river. Fear slowly replaced sympathy. People began avoiding Eze's compound, and mothers quietly pulled their children away whenever they passed his home. Some believed Amara was a child chosen by the gods, while others insisted she carried a terrible curse. Eze ignored every whisper. Each day, he wrapped little Amara against his chest and cared for her with all the love a father could give. Unknown to everyone in Omoke, Amara's extraordinary journey had only just begun.
If you're enjoying this story, please support the channel by liking this video, subscribing, and sharing your thoughts in the comments. Your support truly means a lot. Now let's continue our journey.
The years passed quietly, and Eze raised Amara with all the love he had left in his heart. She grew into a gentle, respectful, and kind-hearted little girl, but she looked different from the other children in Umuoke. Her face was unusual, and many people were afraid of her appearance. Whenever Amara walked through the village beside her father, children pointed at her and laughed. Some even ran away in fear. The adults whispered among themselves, saying she was the child who took her mother's life on the day she was born. Others called her the cursed child of the river. Those cruel words followed Amara wherever she went. Many evenings she returned home with tears in her eyes and asked Father, "Father, why does everyone hate me?" Eze would kneel beside her, gently wipe away her tears and say, "Never believe what people say, Amara. Your mother loved you with her last breath, and to me, you are the greatest gift I have ever received." As Amara grew older, the loneliness became even heavier. No child wanted to play with her, and no family welcomed her into their home. During village festivals, while the other children danced and laughed together, Amara stood quietly beside her father, watching from a distance with a broken heart. Eze did everything he could to make her smile. He taught her how to farm, how to fetch water from the stream, and how to remain kind even when others treated her with cruelty. Every evening, as they sat together outside their mud house, watching the sun disappear behind the hills, he reminded her, "True beauty is not found on a person's face, Amara. It is found in a good heart." Those words became the light that guided Amara through years of rejection. But deep inside, Eze carried one silent fear, that one day he would no longer be there to protect the daughter he had promised never to leave. 14 years passed, and Amara grew into a quiet young teenager. Although she had inherited her mother's gentle heart, life had never been kind to her. Her unusual appearance became even more noticeable as she grew older, and the villagers continued to treat her as though she carried misfortune wherever she went. Some refused to speak to Amara, while others crossed the road whenever they saw her coming. Even the children who had once laughed at her had grown into adults who still believed she was cursed. Yet through all the pain, Amara never allowed hatred to fill her heart. Every morning she helped her father on the farm, fetched water from the stream, gathered firewood, and cared for him with love and respect. Eze watched his daughter grow into a kind, humble, and hard-working young woman. Despite everything the villagers believed, he thanked God every day for giving him the strength to raise Amara. But time had taken its toll on Eze. Years of hard work, grief, and loneliness had weakened his body. One evening, as the golden sun slowly disappeared behind the hills of Umoke, he called Amara to sit beside him outside their small mud house. Taking her hands gently into his own, he smiled with the little strength he had left. "Amara," he said softly, "never let this world tell you who you are. People may judge your face, but only God sees your heart. One day, someone will love you for the person you have become, and when that day comes, never be afraid to accept that love." Tears filled Amara's eyes as she held her father's hands tightly. That night, after helping him onto his sleeping mat, she whispered, "Good night, Father." Eze smiled gently, closed his eyes, and quietly took his final breath. At sunrise, Amara entered his room to wake him, but he never opened his eyes again. For the first time in her life, she was completely alone. The only person who had ever loved and believed in her was gone. Yet unknown to Amara, this heartbreaking goodbye was only the beginning of the extraordinary destiny that awaited her.